Today I'm going to talk about René Descartes' most famous argument in philosophy, the evil deceiver argument. At the beginning of the Meditations, Descartes goes through a number of classic skeptical arguments, but he gives us one that is truly distinctive, one that is dramatically different from anything you find in the philosophical literature before. To some extent, Descartes and other people of the 17th century and the 16th century before it are deeply impressed by the discovery of the skeptical writings of people from the Hellenistic period. For the first time in centuries, they're capable of looking at these writings, examining the arguments, reading them in Greek, or at least in Latin translations from the Greek, and in understanding what drove skeptics to deny the possibility of knowledge. It's not as if people hadn't been aware of the possibility of skepticism for all those centuries, but none of it was really given much attention, partly because the texts that began those traditions, or that exemplified them or summarized them, were unavailable to people. But at the time of Descartes, they had been available, and had been available for a century. Descartes reviews some of those arguments at the start, saying, look, I have reason to doubt everything I believe, not only that I might really know it, but even that there is any reason at all for me to believe it. However, in quest of something that is going to be a rock solid foundation for knowledge, he comes up with an argument even more devastating than any of those found in the tradition. Descartes himself, of course, was not only a famous philosopher, but a famous mathematician and physicist. He is responsible for Cartesian coordinates, which you undoubtedly learned about in high school. He's somebody who had a huge intellectual impact on his day in the sciences, in philosophy, and really in, you might say more broadly, by establishing a certain model of what intellectual inquiry itself is. So there's a sense in which everybody in philosophical traditions now is a follower of Descartes. If it's true that all philosophy is a footnote to Plato, well, all of modern philosophy is really something like a footnote to Descartes. If you want to say Descartes is furthermore a footnote to Plato, fair enough. Maybe the rest of us are doing footnotes to footnotes. But Descartes really dramatically changes philosophy, science, mathematics, and intellectual inquiry itself. In the Meditations, what he introduces to philosophy is the method of doubt. He says, look, there are a lot of things during my life I believed, I found out later they were not true, and so I've had to give up those beliefs. It makes me worry. Maybe I'm wrong about everything. I am going to subject everything I believe to this method of doubt and saying, maybe I'm wrong. I should doubt that. After all, I could be wrong about this. I could be wrong about that. I might be wrong about my own name. I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but then again, I could be wrong. Actually, my grandmother thought she had named my father one thing, and turned out she named him something else. So he went through, well, he's still alive. He's been going through his entire life using his middle name because she thought until he went to school that was actually his first name. Anyhow, I could be wrong about my own name. People can be wrong about very fundamental things. Well, Descartes doesn't just say that kind of thing in general. Hey, you can be wrong about anything. He gives us a series of skeptical arguments. Some of those are arguments that we've examined, arguments from the philosophical tradition based on illusion or the possibility of dreaming. But those at best are going to make me doubt the evidence of my senses. His dramatically new argument makes me go further. So consider the argument from illusion, for example. I look at a plaza like this and it looks to me wavy, as if it has bumps in it. So areas that are lower, areas that are higher. But it's not true. That's simply an illusion caused by the patterning of the tile arranged the way it is in those curves. The possibility of dreaming is similar. I might dream that I'm a different person. I might dream that I'm a goat. I might dream all sorts of things, but that doesn't make that reality. It might be that my entire life, that what I'm experiencing right now is a dream. But, that doesn't really make me doubt other things. So here's how Descartes puts it. In my sleep, I experience the same things as madmen do when they're awake, or sometimes even less probable things. How often have I been persuaded in the quiet of the night of familiar things? That I was here in my robe sitting near the fire, when in fact I was lying disrobed beneath the sheets. It certainly seems to me now that I'm looking at this paper with waking eyes, that this head I move is not asleep, that I'm deliberately and knowingly extending my hand and feel it. What happens in sleep isn't so distinct, no doubt, as if I don't remember being tricked while asleep by similar thoughts on other occasions. When I think about this more carefully, I see so plainly that there are no certain indications by which we may clearly distinguish being awake from being asleep that I'm dumbfounded, and my astonishment almost persuades me that I am asleep. He's looking at his dream states and saying, I can't tell when I'm dreaming and when I'm not. When I'm awake, I think clearly I'm awake. Of course, I'm not dreaming. I think I can draw the line, but when I'm asleep, I think it's all real, right? So dreaming, I think I'm awake. Awake, I think I'm awake. I can't tell the difference. The fact that I think I'm awake does nothing to distinguish being awake from dreaming. But still, all that makes me doubt primarily the evidence of my senses. Maybe this isn't really happening to me. Does it make me doubt everything? Maybe not. But Descartes advances an argument that he thinks comes much closer to doing that. He says, imagine that this universe is ruled not by a good God, but by an evil deceiver who is out to trick you. Not just trick you about the evidence of your senses by putting you in a trance or making you hallucinate, but no, out to trick you about everything. This evil deceiver is someone who wants you to be wrong about every single thing. So every time you think about anything, your mind skips a beat and gets it wrong. 1 + 1 is 2. Well, no, something happened in my mind. The evil deceiver messed with my processes and is making every single belief of mine turn out to be false. So imagine an all-powerful but evil being that is out to deceive me. It makes my mind skip, take a little jump every time I think, every time I draw a conclusion, every time I form a belief, every time I entertain a thought. Something goes wrong, and I end up with a thought, with a belief that is not any longer an accurate description of the world. I shall therefore suppose, Descartes says, not that God who is supremely good in the fountain of truth, but some evil genius of the greatest power and cunning who has employed all his energies to deceive me. That evil deceiver is more disturbing than the possibility of dreaming or the possibility of being subject to some kind of illusion. Because it doesn't just make me think I could be wrong about whether the floor is wavy or flat. I could be wrong about whether I'm dreaming or awake right now. Those things don't challenge my knowledge of logic and mathematics. But the evil deceiver, that makes me doubt even that. If it's an illusion, or if everything's a dream, still it seems 2 + 2 is 4. 2 is 2. 2 + 2 is 4. But if my mind is getting everything wrong, if every time I think, what is 2? It is, well, 2. Something's gone wrong, and the evil deceiver has messed with my mind, and I've formed a false belief. Then maybe even logic is wrong. 2 + 2 is 4. Maybe something has gone wrong, and even that is false. So it looks like the possibility of an evil deceiver is much more devastating to my willingness to believe than the possibility of an illusion or of dreaming. It looks like it challenges even the most fundamental beliefs that I am I, for example, or that 2 + 2 is 4. Well, if that's right, then Descartes says, I seem to have an argument that says, look, it's not just that I might be wrong about this thing or that thing. I might be wrong about everything. This would be a truly global skepticism, a skepticism that's at least trying to challenge every single piece of my knowledge, every single belief that I have, even any that are independent of experience. Illusion, dreaming, at most that challenges anything that depends on experience. But what about the number 2 is the number 2? 2 + 2 is 4. I am who I am. Well, those things get challenged if my mind is simply skipping a beat and getting something wrong every time I think anything. Now, the classical rationalist, and we're going to be talking much more extensively about the nature of rationalism, but a classical rationalist like Philo of Alexandria here, who has a work called On Drunkenness, in which he elaborates a variety of arguments in favor of skeptical conclusions. In the end, however, he rejects skepticism. And he does it in this way. He says, I think in the end I can have knowledge of the world independently of experience. Why? Because the structure of my mind matches the structure of the world. I can know something about the world. And in fact, I can know something about the world without even experiencing it, without having to worry about the possibility of illusions or dreaming, because I can know something about the structure of my own mind. It's within me, so what's going on in the outside world doesn't matter. I can look internally, I can reflect on my own nature and come to some conclusions, and that's going to match the structure of the world. If that's right, I can know something about the world without worrying about these skeptical arguments, without a concern even for the nature of experience or whether I'm experiencing something real. The classical empiricist, that we'll examine several examples of throughout this course, says the mind can reflect the nature of the world and can form true beliefs about it, can even know something about it, because the world gives the mind its information. The world is shaping the mind in such a way that it can reflect on things truly. Classical idealism, which we'll look at much later, has the opposite view. Instead, it's the mind which is imposing its structure on the structure of the world. Philo, well, is a classical rationalist. He wants to say there's a match, but it is not the kind of match that just comes from the world impressing itself on the mind, or the idealist answer of the mind impressing itself on the world. So, what is it? What's going on in classical rationalism? Here's Philo's way of doing it. He says, I think Plato's forms are the key, but the forms aren't just some abstract thing, abstract triangularity or justice sitting out in some mysterious realm. They are ideas in the mind of God. And when God creates the world, and when he creates us in his own image, he is creating both by using the word of God, that is to say, using that realm of forms, the idea that are in God's own mind. So God creates my mind to be a sort of partial finite reflection of the divine mind. God creates the world to be a partial divine reflection of the mind of God. And so it's no surprise that the structure of my mind matches the structure of the world. So I can know something about the world, yes, on the basis of experience, but also even independently of experience. Because when I reflect on the structure of my own mind, I realize that is revealing to me part of the structure of the world. But now you see the power of Descartes' evil deceiver idea. What if it isn't a good God who is stamping the world and my mind with the same stamp? The stamp which is basically a reflection of God's own mind, God's own ideas. What if they're stamped with different stamps? What if there's an evil deceiver who has built my mind precisely so that it can't understand the world? So the world has a certain kind of structure and my mind has a certain kind of structure, and never the twain will meet. I think they do. I think I know something about the world. I think I sometimes perceive it accurately and know something about it and have reasonable beliefs about it. But that possibility is, wait, what if it's all wrong? What if God has given me these tools, put something in my mind that gives it a certain kind of structure, and it's a structure that makes it completely inappropriate to do the job it's supposed to do? It's as if I had to drive a nail through a hard piece of wood, and I say, no problem, I've got this small book. And I start hitting the nail with this book. It's not going to do the job at all. It's just completely inappropriate for that particular task. What if my mind and the world are just like the book and the nail? What if, in other words, the structure of my mind is actually created so that it will misunderstand the structure of the world? It won't get it right. It's got the wrong stamp on it. It's something that will not understand. In fact, will systematically misconstrue, misunderstand, misrepresent the nature of the world. That seems like a serious and very dangerous option. And of course, that might be the case with many, many different things. Maybe the structure of the world could be translated in some partial way into the structure of my mind, in something like the way that the Latin word verbum or logos in Greek could be translated, or this in Thai. But maybe it's something else entirely that is just unintelligible, that we cannot even recognize, and that has no translation, no correspondence, whatever, with the structure of my mind. That's a disturbing possibility. And so when I reflect on that, I begin to think, I could be wrong about everything. Maybe it turns out that there's really nothing I can be guaranteed of. Maybe my mind does have a structure that makes it completely incapable of knowing anything about the world. But if that's true, then I should doubt not only the evidence of my senses, I should doubt that I am who I am. I should doubt that the number 2 is the number 2. I should doubt that 1 plus 1 is 2 and 2 plus 2 is 4. I should doubt everything, or so it might seem. Should I truly doubt everything? That's where Descartes makes his second huge positive contribution.